Melissa Farrell-Griffin, she's our CNN political commentator and former Trump White House communications director. We also have Rina Shah, our Republican strategist. Ladies, great to have you here. George Santos, Alyssa, he is charged with financial fraud in Brazil. Let me give our viewers a little bit more details about that. This is according to documents obtained by CNN. Santos admitted to stealing a man's checkbook that was in his mother's possession to purchase clothing and shoes in 2008. Santos confessed to forging the man's signature on 2 checks to purchase clothes and shoes costing approximately $1,313. Someone who is charged with financial fraud and defrauding a small business is going to be on the Small Business Committee.
Well, and a step further, my understanding is it's the first time in history a foreign nation has asked to extradite a sitting congressman because the Brazil government would like to charge him for these crimes. It's totally unprecedented. We know it is the simple math of not wanting to lose a Republican seat that is having Kevin McCarthy kind of turn a blind eye to these things. But while they are what we consider B committees, not A committees, the ones you most want to be on, these are still overseeing things that matter to the American public. Yeah. I'd also note the Science and Technology Committee is going to be extremely important in a Congress that's going to be looking into big tech. So he's going to have roles in 2 influential committees at a time when he's under any number of investigations. And also just note, there's reporting he defrauded veterans trying to help dogs. Like, this man seems to know no bottom.
Yeah, we have that reporting that there were veterans, their dog was sick, this pit bull named Sapphire. He started a GoFundMe, raised $3,000. The owner of the pit bull never saw the money. The list just gets, Rina, worse and worse as we go day after day. There's not a constituency that he hasn't offended or allegedly defrauded in some way. How will he have any credibility to question or hold accountable any witness who comes before either of these committees?
Well, already sitting in this moment, he has 0 credibility because his own local GOP wants nothing to do with him. They actually want to send constituent casework not to his office, but to a neighboring congressman's office. It tells you right there, when your own people don't want you and tell you that you're not welcome, not just in their ranks, but at any event. That is a moment where we have to say, what kind of person has made it to the highest level of office? It is a person who is frankly a con man. There's nothing about him that seems true. He seems to be not just full of himself and somebody who embellished here. He seems to be quite dangerous. And I felt that he's the kind of guy who will stay until he's let out in handcuffs. Because look, Kevin McCarthy cannot grow a backbone to deal with him because they just can't afford to lose his vote. And if they do lose his vote, Kevin McCarthy might not even be speaker anymore. So this is an issue where we're looking at the situation and we're seeing the drip drop, but it's serving nobody, least of all his constituents.
Mm-hmm. That leads us to Marjorie Taylor Greene. So, Alyssa, she is on the Homeland Security Committee. She's been named now to the Homeland Security Committee. Let's just remind our viewers of some of the insane things that she has said.
The so-called plane that crashed into the Pentagon. It's odd, there's never any evidence shown for a plane in the Pentagon.
There is an Islamic invasion into our government offices right now.
Kennedy getting killed in the plane crash. That's another one of those Clinton murders, right?
We're talking about who is Q, so I'm going to tell you what he says. According to him, many in our government are actively worshiping Satan.
That's her following QAnon. So she is highly susceptible to crazy conspiracy theories. She's going to be in charge of our security?
I mean, and think of the history here, too. The Homeland Security Committee was stood up in 2002 after the 9/11 attacks. When I was the former Pentagon press secretary, I offered to give Marjorie Taylor Greene a tour of the Pentagon where you can see where the plane hit the building. Of course, no response there. But that is the height of irresponsibility by Kevin McCarthy. He could have put her on House administration. There's many committees you could plug someone like her where she can't do real damage. But Rina said something important that I think applies to both of these individuals, which is there's a danger element here, especially with George Santos, a known con artist. This is somebody that foreign adversaries would be, chomping at the bit to exploit. When you are this, caught up in legal woes, you really don't have an off-ramp here. This is what makes you susceptible to things like blackmail. And he's now going to have access to what members of Congress do. She's somebody as well where she's not demonstrated the judgment, the integrity to be on a committee dealing with our homeland. And finally, one of the biggest issues Homeland Security Committee should be dealing with is homegrown domestic terrorism, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers. This is a woman who said that if she and Steve Bannon had led January 6th, they would have won and they would have been armed. Totally irresponsible.
Rina, let's look now at House Oversight Committee, including Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who supported Kevin McCarthy in his bid for the speakership, but a couple of holdouts, Lauren Boebert, Byron Donalds, Paul Gosar, and others are on this committee now. There have been questions about these side deals that were made to get to the final vote, in the 15th vote to get to that gavel. What do the next 2 years look like if you have these members there on House Oversight?
Dysfunction, dysfunction, dysfunction. That is what the next 2 years look like. And it saddens me as somebody who has worked in the halls of Congress, and any of us who've worked in the halls we know that not only are these members, these people we've elected as our representatives, people who should be committed to intellectual debate, rigorous intellectual debate, but they should also at the very least have stable minds. And what I think we've seen with the crazy clown car caucus of Gosar and Gates and Boebert, we've seen this lack of desire to govern. We've seen this want to blow it all up. And this is a problem in our moment right now, where we have these attitudes that are all or nothing attitudes. They are creating the problem that messes with everyday governing. So it's what's happening in our politics doesn't just happen over there. It affects what happens on the Hill, because they bring these attitudes, and then they at every moment want to create barriers to progress, to things actually getting done for the American people. And conservatives have real opportunities when we talk about economy, immigration, energy. These are places that Republicans can lead this year. They can legislate, they can choose to govern. But again, these people who are characterizing our politics, they've made it so hard because they've made it so difficult for Kevin McCarthy to afford to lose even one vote, like I mentioned earlier. And it's a very simple reason for why we will see the dysfunction in the next 2 years.
Well, there are certainly some problems that must be solved. At the top of the list, the debt ceiling coming up. Reaching it tomorrow, default in a few months. We'll talk more about that throughout the next hour plus. Rina Shah, Alisyn Farah Griffin, thank you.